Mia adjusted her dress and sighed as the golden light from the Grand Euphoria Hotel spilled across her tired face. She wasn't in the mood for any party, especially not one thrown for some new partner she couldn't care less about. But the company expected it. And as the marketing manager, she was always the one who had to wear the mask when needed. She stepped into the ballroom. Everything was too lavish, too loud. Soft jazz floated from a piano, red wine poured endlessly, and CEOs exchanged handshakes like actors on a stage. Just as she took a breath, her eyes landed on a man standing by the bar. Tall, slightly curly brown hair. Sleeves rolled up, no tie, standing there like he didn't owe the room a single thought. There was something about him, a quiet confidence that didn't need to prove itself. And his eyes looked at her like he had seen her even before she walked in. He smiled. Not the kind that starts a conversation, the kind that says she was the only interesting thing in the room. A glass of white, if you're not a fan of red. His voice was deep, soft, like it poured straight into her ear. I thought in America, men don't call strange women you like that. Mia smiled, taking the glass from his hand. I'm not your standard American. He winked. They both laughed. No names. No jobs. Just two people standing next to each other, anonymous, both trying to forget something tonight. They didn't talk much. But that was what Mia liked. He didn't pry. Didn't flirt. He just was calm, present, and strangely warm. Wanna go to the rooftop? He asked, and she nodded like she'd been waiting for that question all evening. At the top floor the noise faded. Only cool wind and the distant glow of the city lights remained. Do you do this often? Do what? Follow a man whose name you don't know? Up to a hotel rooftop during a party night? Never. So why's tonight different? Because I needed someone who didn't need to know who I was. Then, let's not say names. He whispered. No names. No morning. Just tonight. Just tonight. The suite on the 23rd floor glowed in soft light. Mia didn't remember who kissed first. Maybe it was her. Maybe it was him. But his hand on her waist felt familiar. And the kiss wasn't rushed. Wasn't clumsy. It felt like something long overdue finally found. Clothes slipped to the floor. Lights dimmed. They melted into each other like two souls seeking warmth in a world too cold. No names. No promises. Just two people who found each other in a night no one planned. The next morning Mia woke up early, sunlight slipping through the curtains. He was still asleep, peaceful, hair tousled, one arm stretched across the bed as if reaching for something. She smiled, then quietly got dressed, wrote a note and placed it on the table. Let's pretend we never met. She walked out of the room, her heart still echoing with the night before, but her mind already cold, because in her life, love and loss were old acquaintances. Mia pushed the door open, and the first light of morning spilled through the clear glass windows, casting a soft glow on her skin still warm from the fire of the night before. She took a deep breath, trying to calm the turmoil slowly spreading inside her. She glanced at her watch. Only about an hour left until the morning meeting with a major client. She hadn't even thought about that last night when she walked into the hotel room. She just wanted to forget everything. Back in the bathroom, Mia splashed cold water on her face, took a long sip from the glass and hurriedly got dressed. White blouse. Black slacks. She gave herself one last look in the mirror, avoiding the sight of the bed, where her strength had melted away the night before. A vibration from the phone in her pocket startled her. Mia, they've arrived. Get ready. It was Julie, her partner manager. No time for hesitation now. Mia rushed out of the room, her footsteps brisk against the brightly lit hallway. She stepped into the conference room, where senior executives were already seated. Guests were standing near the entrance, exchanging pleasantries and friendly handshakes. And then she froze. Him, the man she had spent a nameless night with, was standing there. Sharp gaze, calm demeanor, but when he saw her, his eyes flickered. They passed over her and quickly turned away, as if this were all just a silent scene in a perfectly choreographed play. Hello, Mia. It's good to see you again. His voice was warm but distant, like he was putting up a wall between them. A cold wave rushed through her body. This couldn't go any further. This was work. This was what she had prepared for weeks. And he could not be a part of it. She steadied herself. Hello, Ethan. She nodded, trying to hide the trembling in her voice. Good to see you again. Mia took her seat across from him, fingers tightly interlaced, feeling the tension thick in the air. The meeting went smoothly, but Mia couldn't focus on numbers or partnership strategies. Ethan's every glance felt like a blade tugging at her heart. He was watching her, not with the eyes of a colleague, but with the eyes she had seen the night before. The eyes of someone who had seen deep into her soul, someone hiding a secret behind a polite smile. The meeting ended after more than an hour. Ethan stood, nodding to those around him, but his eyes never left Mia. Mia, would you join me for a coffee? Ethan smiled, a smile filled with meaning and mystery. She wanted to refuse, but the words caught in her throat. She couldn't say them. She couldn't say that last night she had given her heart and body to this man, without thinking of tomorrow. You want to see me again? Mia asked softly, trying to keep her voice steady. I thought we should keep things strictly professional. Is that what you really think? He stepped closer, no longer smiling. His eyes grew deeper, darker. But last night was a different story. Mia could feel his breath on her skin. She wanted to move, but her feet felt rooted to the floor. I don't think I did anything wrong, Ethan whispered. It was just one night, but neither of us can deny what it meant. She looked at him, and it felt like everything she tried to build, every wall, every piece of strength, was crumbling. He was no longer a stranger, no longer just a client. He was part of the night she thought was over, now awake again and pulling her into a complicated reality. We can't keep doing this, Ethan. She sighed, trying to separate her emotions from logic. I'm not the kind of woman who falls for one-night stands and walks away like it never happened. But you're different. He said it softly with a hint of sorrow. You can remember it whenever you want. Mia couldn't stop thinking about Ethan. Every time she looked at the project plan, every time she answered a partner's call, his eyes would flash through her mind, sharp and mysterious. But what unsettled her the most wasn't the confusion after that night. It was his silence. A silence that felt like he was waiting, yet refusing to push anything further. The company was in its busiest period, and Mia barely had time to think about anything outside of work. She focused on meetings, sent out emails, negotiated with clients. Everything was running in a familiar rhythm. But she couldn't deny one thing. Every time Ethan appeared, whether in an email or at a meeting, her heart would skip a beat. Today they had to work together again. Mia's company was hosting a presentation on new service packages for key clients, and Ethan was the only partner with the authority to make the final call. Standing before the projector screen, Mia clicked to the next slide, trying not to let her gaze wander toward him. But she couldn't ignore the way he was watching her, intently. He stood beside her, not touching a single document, not typing a single key. Just observing, as if she were the only thing worth watching. You explained it convincingly. Ethan spoke as the presentation concluded. His voice didn't hide the impression she had left. It makes sense. But I want to see how these packages perform in reality. When can we start testing them? Mia nodded, trying to stay composed, though her fingers couldn't stop trembling. She knew the presentation had been a success, but she also knew that all her efforts were being overshadowed by a strange, unshakable feeling. After the meeting, the others left. Mia quickly cleared the table, hoping to be alone with her thoughts. You did great. Ethan's voice came from behind. She turned, too late to avoid him. He was standing right there, close enough for her to smell the soft, masculine scent of his cologne, subtle, intoxicating. Thank you, she replied curtly, but his eyes didn't leave her. Maybe I should take a break. Too much work, she added, her voice more distant. He didn't answer immediately. He just looked at her, with a seriousness in his eyes that Mia couldn't quite define. A plea hidden in his silence. Mia, Ethan said softly but firmly. I know we have a professional relationship and I respect that. But last night it wasn't just a mistake. We can't go on pretending like it didn't happen. Mia's heart pounded. Her hands went cold. She knew this conversation would come, just not so soon. She avoided his gaze, but he stepped closer. Now there was barely any space left between them. I'm not someone who gives up easily, Mia. His voice low and almost a whisper. You know, last night, I felt like I found something I didn't even know I was looking for. Mia took a deep breath, trying to stay grounded. But her heart kept racing. She couldn't let herself fall. Not in a relationship built on work. Not in a situation that couldn't grow. And not into feelings she couldn't control. Ethan, last night was just an accident. We can't let it affect our work. Her voice turned cold and firm. We need to keep our distance. It's the right thing to do. He stood in silence for a moment, processing her words. Then finally he nodded. All right, Mia. His voice held disappointment but no blame. But you won't be able to keep running from it forever. Mia walked out of the conference room, her heart heavy. She didn't want things to spiral out of control. But she couldn't deny what she felt. Last night hadn't just been a mistake. It was the beginning of something she could no longer keep in check. She stepped into the elevator, staring at her reflection in the mirrored doors. A strong woman, now face to face with emotions she never wanted to feel again. That feeling was something she never thought she'd have to deal with again. 2 weeks had passed since that fateful meeting. Mia tried to live by her words. No crossing boundaries, no letting emotions interfere with work. She worked hard, avoided Ethan in every meeting when possible, and never responded to any personal messages from him. Not even a simple greeting. Ethan didn't push her either. He remained polite, professional in all exchanges, the ideal business partner. A man who always knew how to maintain just the right amount of distance. But Mia knew that behind that quiet gaze, there was an undercurrent, waiting for the right moment to rise. And that moment came on the unexpectedly long rainy night. The company hosted an intimate internal party at a boutique hotel in the city center. To celebrate a newly signed contract, of course, with Ethan's company. Everyone was there and Mia couldn't skip it. She wore a simple black dress that clung to her curves. She didn't try to stand out. But as she entered the ballroom, the first gaze that met hers was none other than Ethan's. He stood by the bar, dressed in a sharp gray suit, holding a glass of whiskey. But his gaze never left her, not even for a second. Despite the few people around him who were trying to engage him in conversation. Mia tried to blend into the atmosphere, chatting with colleagues, raising a glass to celebrate with clients. But Ethan's stare felt like it was burning into her back. She felt it as clearly as if his hand were touching her skin. After about an hour, the heavy rain suddenly poured down, wind howling through the hotel's windows. Some guests started leaving early, fearing flooded roads, but Mia couldn't bring herself to leave yet. As the party wound down, Ethan approached her, the first time he'd closed the distance in days. My car's parked in the basement. Do you need a ride home? His voice was still warm, but there was something different this time. A little gentleness. A little concern. Mia hesitated, then nodded. The car stopped in front of her apartment building. The rain didn't let up, each drop hitting the windshield like it was accentuating the tension in the silence between them. Thanks for the ride, Mia said, her hand on the door handle. But before she could open it, Ethan spoke again. Would you like to have another drink? He smiled faintly. Not to talk business. Just as friends. Just friends. That word made Mia smile bitterly. But she nodded anyway. Mia's apartment was neat and cozy. She poured 2 glasses of red wine and handed one to Ethan. They sat on the sofa, keeping a respectful distance. But it was close enough to feel each other's breath. You always know how to make me lose control, Mia said softly but clearly. Even when I try to run away. Ethan set his glass down on the table, turning to look at her. I haven't forgotten that night. And I know you haven't either. Silence. Tension. Mia's heart seemed to stop. But she couldn't run away anymore. This time their kiss wasn't hurried. It wasn't filled with the fiery passion of the first time. Instead, it was something gentler, deeper. As if they had both been holding back for too long. Ethan leaned down, gently running his fingers through Mia's hair, whispering, I want you. But not just because of your body. I know. She replied softly. And I don't want to hide anymore. Clothes fell to the floor like summer petals. Their bodies found each other like perfect puzzle pieces. Every touch was full of longing. But this time it was also filled with respect, understanding, and real emotions. Ethan lightly traced her spine, his lips gliding over her smooth skin, making Mia shiver. She welcomed him completely without any guard. And in every ragged breath, in every quiet moan, they didn't just melt in desire. They melted in the connection of two lonely souls. That night wasn't just another night of passion. It was an admission. A new beginning. Mia's mornings no longer began with the sound of an alarm clock. They began with a message from Ethan. Ethan, are you up? I just made coffee, but it tastes too bitter without you. At first she would just read it and smile. But soon she started waiting for it. Each morning the faint glow of her phone screen was the first thing to greet her eyes. Along with a familiar feeling. A strange, warm, and dangerous feeling. Between meetings, between serious emails, there were still subtle touches beneath the table, unseen glances, and fleeting smiles that seemed to hide something far bigger than the million-dollar contract their companies were working on. Ethan had changed. He was no longer the cold, by-the-book partner. Now, he was the man who called her at midnight just to say he missed her voice. The one who dropped off food at her place in pouring rain, disappearing right after leaving the bag at her door. In case someone sees. And Mia was falling deep. She knew this relationship wasn't part of any plan. She was the type who lived with structure, with boundaries, someone who never let emotions overrule principles. But with Ethan, every rule became fragile. If someone finds out, the contract will be frozen. Both your company and mine will be affected. Mia had once warned him, voice firm, as they hid in his car one evening after work. I know, Ethan replied, gently stroking the back of her hand. But I also know I've never felt this way with anyone. You weren't in my plans, Mia. But I don't want to go back to the time before you. His words made her throat tighten. Her heart pounded uncontrollably. And that was what scared her. Scared that it was all too beautiful. Scared she was living in a bubble that could burst with just the smallest crack. They didn't date in public. They only saw each other when night fell, when the world around them was asleep. Mia's apartment slowly became a refuge for two hidden souls. They loved each other in silence. No status. No photos. No promises. Just long embraces behind closed doors. Quick kisses before stepping out of the car. And rushed messages before meetings. You look amazing today. I'm trying hard not to stare. If you sit next to me, I won't be able to focus at all. But the deeper they fell, the more afraid they became. One day, Mia sat alone in her office, staring at her phone that didn't light up like it usually did. A creeping unease settled into her chest. She had once been strong, rational. But now, even a small silence from Ethan could shake her world. She started to wonder, does he truly care? Can we really keep this going forever? Once the contract ends, will he still want me? That night, Ethan arrived late. It was still raining, just like the first night they were together. When he stepped into her apartment, he didn't say a word. He just held her tightly. I'm sorry. There was an emergency meeting. He spoke between tired breaths. I don't want you to think something's wrong. I can't always be the one to speak first. Mia gripped his hand tightly. You don't have to say anything. I just need to know. Do you still want me in your life? Ethan looked into her eyes for a long moment, as if searching for a certainty he himself had never had before. I don't think about want anymore, Mia. You're already a part of me. Mia never thought she would see Liam again. The first man who truly broke her heart. He had once been everything to her. Her college sweetheart of 3 years, the man she once imagined marrying. And the one who shattered her faith in love when she discovered he had cheated with a colleague, just 3 weeks before they were supposed to move in together. It had taken Mia over a year to heal. And only recently, with Ethan's arrival, had she finally felt alive again. But this morning Liam reappeared. As if he had never left. She was walking out of the cafe near her office when a familiar voice called from behind. Mia! She turned around. That face, slightly tousled brown hair, chestnut eyes that once made her weak, was exactly the same. Only his gaze had changed. Filled with regret and sorrow. I was on assignment in New York. Just moved back a few months ago, Liam said awkwardly. I heard you were working around here, so... Mia stood frozen. She didn't know how to react. She thought she had grown strong enough not to care anymore. But now, facing him, her heart ached. Not because she still loved him, but because all the painful memories came rushing back. I want to apologize, Liam continued. I know it might not mean anything now, but I was wrong. Deeply wrong. You don't need to say anything, Mia cut him off, trying to stay composed. What we had ended a long time ago. Then at least let me be a friend. Or at the very least let you know I still care. The conversation lasted less than 10 minutes. Mia thought it meant nothing. But she didn't know Ethan had seen everything. He had just arrived at the cafe, planning to meet Mia as they'd arranged. But from across the street he saw her with Liam. Saw the sadness in her expression. Saw the way Liam looked at her, like he never wanted to let go. He couldn't hear a word. But he misunderstood it all. Ethan didn't say anything about what he saw. Not a single word. He still texted her every morning, but the messages were shorter. He still came over late at night, but no longer held her tightly. When they were together, he didn't look into her eyes like before. His gaze drifted elsewhere, as if hiding something. Mia felt the change. And it hurt, not because Liam came back, but because Ethan was now leaving without a word. One evening after Ethan left early, Mia sat alone on the balcony, watching the city bathe in golden lights. She texted him, "What are you thinking about?" No reply. She typed again, "If you think I still have feelings for him, then you don't really understand me." 1 minute. 5 minutes. 10 minutes passed. The phone remained silent. Mia set it down, rested her head on her hand, eyes stinging. Old wounds felt like they were being torn open again. She had loved once and been betrayed. Now, just as she dared to believe again, he was pulling away in silence. And the most painful part? Ethan never even asked. Time didn't ease the distance between Mia and Ethan. It only made it grow, silently, coldly, and painfully, like an open wound in the heart that deepened with each passing day, harder and harder to heal. The morning texts stopped coming. The calls grew infrequent. The once casual touches at the office became awkward and fleeting. Ethan avoided Mia's gaze. And Mia, though hurt, began learning how to hide hers too. A week after the encounter with Liam, they had only seen each other twice. No more evenings spent hiding from the world in her apartment. No more laughter. No more familiar tenderness. Only silence remained. Mia felt like she was standing before a door slowly closing. Not with a slam, not with violence, just quietly but inevitably. And she couldn't take it anymore. That night, Mia sent Ethan a short message. "I need to talk. Meet me at the park near the old spot. 9 p.m. If you don't show, I'll understand." No emojis. No exclamation marks. Just an invitation or maybe a goodbye. 9:03 p.m. The night wind blew gently. The park was quiet. Mia sat on a stone bench, hands clenched in her coat pockets, eyes fixed on the gate. 9:10 p.m. Still no one. She took a deep breath, lips pressed tightly together. Maybe he wouldn't come. Maybe it really was over. But just as she was about to stand, "I'm sorry. Traffic." His voice came from behind her, breathless and full of worry. Mia turned around. Ethan stood there, shirt collar unbuttoned, hair messy, dark circles under his eyes like he hadn't slept in days. "I thought you wouldn't come," she said softly but firmly. Ethan sat down, leaving a small space between them. "I didn't know where to start. It's just, ever since I saw you with him." "Liam," she said, still looking straight ahead. "Yeah, I thought you still loved him. You smiled at him. You stood close. I didn't want to get in the way of something you hadn't let go of." Mia turned to him, her gaze filled with hurt and anger. "So you chose silence? Instead of asking, you pulled away?" "Ethan, I've been betrayed once. And now I'm being abandoned again, by someone I thought would be different." Ethan lowered his head. His hands clenched, eyes avoiding hers. "I was afraid that if you said yes, I wouldn't be strong enough to walk away. So I chose to avoid it." Mia let out a bitter laugh. "The thing is, I never said yes. I was just waiting for you to ask." Silence. The breeze blew gently like a quiet, unfinished song. Finally, Ethan reached for her hand, for the first time in days. "Then let me ask now. Do you still have feelings for him, Mia?" She looked deep into his eyes. No hesitation. "No. The one I want is you. And I'm tired of guessing what you're thinking." Ethan gently squeezed her hand, as if afraid that letting go would mean losing everything. I'm tired of being afraid too. If you're still willing to stay, I'll learn to be braver. Learn to ask, instead of retreating. Mia didn't say a word. She just rested her head on his shoulder, letting tears fall quietly onto his shirt. Not out of pain but out of relief. Because in the end, despite all the misunderstandings and hurt, they still chose to come back to each other. Mia sat in front of her computer, in her small apartment bathed in soft golden light. It was nearly midnight, but she still couldn't sleep. She couldn't shake the emptiness inside her. The feeling that something was left unsaid, untouched. Even though they had gotten back together, even though Ethan had held her in the park that night, something still felt incomplete. She opened her laptop, pulled up her email window and began to type without thinking, just letting her heart guide her fingers. To Ethan Blake. Subject: if you're reading this, Ethan, I know I may never send this letter, but I have to write it because if I don't, I might go crazy. You came into my life like a gust of wind, fast, fierce, and you turned every rule I ever believed in upside down. I never meant to fall for you. I really tried to fight it, but I failed. And I'm glad I did. When you went silent, I thought everything between us would end like a song cut short. But then you came. You asked. You listened. And I realized, I'm no longer afraid of getting hurt, if the one who hurts me is you, because at least it's real. If you're reading this, maybe I was brave enough to hit send. And if not, then it's still here, saved in drafts like a piece of my heart I've hidden away. Either way, I still choose to love you. Quietly or loudly, secretly or openly. Mia. Mia stopped typing and exhaled deeply. She read the letter one more time. Her fingers hovered over the send button, but didn't press it. She didn't know why. Maybe out of fear. Maybe because she hoped Ethan would somehow understand it all, without her ever having to say it. She saved the draft, closed the laptop and leaned back in her chair. Silent. Still. Meanwhile, just a few blocks away, Ethan sat in his car, drumming his fingers lightly on the steering wheel. On the passenger seat was a formal contract from the parent company, confirming he'd be transferred to New York in 3 months. If he accepted. Attached to it was a key clause. He could choose a replacement. And the first name that came to mind was Mia. It had taken him almost a week to decide. A whole month to battle with himself. And tonight he knew he had to choose. Not just a job, but the truth, the love, and the future. Ethan stopped the car in front of Mia's apartment. The light was still on. He grabbed the contract and a small paper bag, inside it a paper plane keychain, something Mia had mentioned during their first conversation at the bar. If I could choose a way to disappear, I'd be a paper plane. Floating in the sky, tied to nothing at all. He rang the doorbell. Mia opened the door, surprised. Ethan. He handed her the paper bag and looked her straight in the eyes. I choose you. Mia froze. Her heart pounded. Ethan stepped inside and placed the contract on the table. They've offered me a transfer to New York for 3 months. The contract needs a quick signature. But I'm saying no unless you come with me. Not for the job, but because I can't stand being away from you again. She was silent. And in that moment, the world narrowed down to just the two of them, and the unsent email draft still resting quietly in her laptop. The hotel lobby was still as busy as the first time they met. The clinking of glasses, the rustling of papers, and the hurried footsteps of the staff. Mia stepped through the revolving glass door, her hair flowing loosely, her elegant suit hugging her slender frame. She carried a file, as she did on any normal meeting day. But today was far from ordinary. On the opposite side of the lobby, Ethan was standing, waiting. No longer a distant partner. No longer the lover who avoided eye contact. He stood there, back straight, eyes fixed on her as if he had been waiting for this moment for a long time. They moved toward each other. Slowly, cautiously, as if afraid any hasty step might shatter that moment. Then it was Ethan who spoke first. If we can work well pretending not to love each other, then I want to see how well we can be when we truly love each other. Mia stopped, feeling like the whole hotel lobby blurred behind him. She remembered every step of that day. The first time she saw Ethan, just a stranger in a suit standing at the check-in counter. She remembered the strange feeling of instinctively looking at him again. She remembered that night. A one-night stand, that no one wanted to be just a night, Now they had come back to that place, but as two different people, with real feelings, real promises, and hearts no longer hidden. Mia gave a small nod. She stepped closer to him and whispered, "Are you sure? This is your company, your career." Ethan smiled, a smile she had never seen before. Confident and at peace. "I can rebuild my career. But finding someone who makes me smile without trying, that's not easy to come by." He extended his hand. "Let's start again. No more secret lovers. No more hiding behind contracts. Just you and me, in every sense." Mia looked at his hand, then placed hers in it. "We'll do great. When we truly love." They walked toward the elevator, the place where, many times before, they had passed each other by like invisible people. Now the door opened to welcome them, as if welcoming a beginning with no secrets. And somewhere in Mia's phone, the email draft still hadn't been deleted. But now she didn't need to send it anymore, because everything in it she had already said aloud. Ethan's new apartment in New York was on the 25th floor, high enough to see the city stretch out to the horizon, and quiet enough to hear the breath of the person beside him. Mia stepped out of the bathroom, her hair damp, wrapped loosely in a white towel. The golden light from the nightstand lamp cast a soft glow on her skin, highlighting every curve as if time itself wanted to pause and admire her. Ethan was sitting on the couch, his laptop open, but his eyes never left her. "How long are you going to keep staring at me?" Mia tilted her head, half teasing, half shy. "Until you get bored." Ethan smiled, closing his laptop. They had been in New York for 3 weeks. 3 weeks without hiding. 3 weeks of going to work together, coming home together, cooking together, and loving each other. No more invisible distances, no more fear of being discovered, no more interrupted texts in the middle of the night. Just two people living true to their feelings, being together, no reason needed. That evening, they lay beside each other on the bed, the sound of rain pattering gently on the balcony. Mia turned to face Ethan. "Do you remember the first night?" she asked softly. "Of course. I remember every detail," he replied, gently brushing her hair. "At that time I thought if it's just one night, then it's fine. But I was wrong." Ethan kissed her forehead softly. "And I thought if it's just one night, I'd regret it for the rest of my life." That night, they made love as if there was no tomorrow. No longer was it about rushed desire. No longer was it instinct overpowering reason. It was love, deep, complete, and unhurried. Every gentle touch, every quick breath, every glance. Each carried a promise that didn't need words. They loved each other as if it were the first time. But this time it was the only time they wanted to keep forever. The next morning the sunlight streamed through the curtains, casting light on the two of them still sleeping, wrapped in each other's arms. No more unsent emails. No more contracts hiding feelings. Only a new journey. One they were writing day by day together.